Okay, let's finish some spring decorations. Okay, so a little while ago I got myself this kit from Anchor with 3 cross-stitched hanging decorations in it. I've now made up the cross-stitch bits, so we need to put the whole package together, ready to hang it up. So let's flip the camera around and get on with that. Okay, so here are my 3 finished cross stitches. So the next step is to make a hanging loop, make a tassel for them and put the backing fabric on. So I've pressed the hoop creases out of the cross stitches and I've pressed the backing fabric that came in the kit, so that's all ready to go. Now I have still got some slightly messy, but it's all there. Leftover threads from doing the cross stitch, so some of that will go into the hanging loop. The kit came with wadding, and it also came with obviously a needle and 3 skeins of this thread. Now I have a little bit of a query about the instructions for making the braid and making the tassels. First of all, let's talk about the tassels, because that's what this thread will be used for. The pattern says you need 2 skeins of this thread for the tassels, which is good because you've used part of one of them for the crosses. The instructions on how to make the tassels, however, use an entire skein for each tassel. There are 3 ornaments to make. Maths is not mathing. However, I do think an entire skein of this as a tassel, so they have you fold it in half and tie it. I think that's a little bit excessive for the size of the ornament, so yeah, we'll play it a bit by ear with those. The other question I have is the instructions for the braid that you make the loop out of uses some of this thread and some of the thread from here, and it gives the measurements in meters. The threads came pre-cut. They are not a metre long. That's not a metre. It's maybe half a metre. So I'm a little confused. So I'm going to have a little bit of a ponder on what I need to put into the braids and make some tassels, and then we'll start constructing. Okay, I thought I'd worked it out. Even more confusion comes with the instructions for the braid, as that references 4 1 metre long lengths. But also they've set the threads in half metres. Okay. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8 wide, so I'm going to need half in each bundle. So we've got 4 threads, and we'll have smaller loops, which is fine. I think smaller loops will work better for me. So yeah, so I've knotted the first one together, so I'll knot that. Reduce the size of my bundles, because I can always use the cut thread from the gold for the tassels. Yeah. The instructions are dubious, shall we say. The pictures are fine, the pictures are clear, the pattern itself is fine. It's the how to make the braid, how to make the tassel. The instructions don't match up with the kit, but that's okay. We can work it out. Okay, so I've worked it out. We have our first braid. They call it a braid, it's more of a twist really. So this will be attached to the ornament that size, which I think is a much better length than if I'd have done a metre long. It would have been double the length. So yeah, I think the metre must have been a misprint in the instructions. So making these is quite simple. I have my little bundle of thread, and just out of shot probably. Yeah, probably just out of shot. I'm just going to pin down the end of my bundle of threads to keep them in place. Just put a couple of pins in the loop of one of my threads. I'm just going to put a pin in the knot as well, just by the knot. to give me something to pull against. So I'm going to hold the threads taut and I'm just going to twist. So I am twisting them to my left. I don't think it particularly matters which direction you twist them. You want to keep a bit of tension on them as you're doing it. And once you've twisted all the way down as far as you reasonably can, and you've got the twist nice and tight all the way along the length of the threads. It's a rather nifty little trick that comes up. So I'm going to put my finger about halfway along, fold it up on itself, and with my right hand, it's holding the loop with my finger, I'm just going to let go. And it twists it round and basically plies itself. So you're effectively doing a ply back for any spinners out there. So I'll just unpin this one. And then I'm going to tie a knot to hold everything in place. There we go. So to make my tassels, I've ripped up part of the packaging to make a template, and I've got 6 lengths of thread here. They're 25 centimetres, 30 centimetres, something like that. I didn't measure them, I just cut the lengths I had left over from the braids into shorter lengths, probably longer than I need anyway. And I've got my remaining 2 skeins of Anchor 306, which is the thread they provided for the tassels. I'm going to wrap bundles of the thread around the card, which I've checked the length against the cross stitches. I think that's going to be a reasonable length for a tassel. So I'm going to wind bundles on until I'm happy with the width, and then tie them up into tassels. So yeah, quite simple. You don't need to watch me wrapping thread around a card. I'm sure you can all work out how to do that. So I'll come back to you when I've got the tassel ready for the next bit. Okay, so I have my little bundle of thread on the cardboard. So I'm going to put one of my strands around the top, and then there'll be another bit tied around here, but I need to get it off the card first before I do that. This is why I think these threads, well, I know these threads are going to be longer than is strictly necessary. But, there we go. So post it under there. So this will be the bit of thread that attaches the tassel to the finished item. Tie a reef knot or a square knot, however you prefer to name it, quite tightly around the top. And there will be another bit of thread tied on shortly, but to get it off the cardboard, I'm just going to put my scissors in the bottom of the cardboard. I'll trim it up to neaten it later. I'm sure there are better gadgets that are like designed for the purpose of making these, but this will work. So again, I'm just tying a reef knot. And I'm going to wrap that through around a few times as well, just to give it a little bit of chunk. And then we'll tie it off again. get the other 2 of those made, and then we'll neaten them up and we're ready to put everything together. So to tidy up these ends from tying the tassel together, I'm just popping a crochet hook through the top loops and just pulling them up to join the threads that are tied at the top. They'll then disappear into the ornament when everything's stitched together. And if they're not quite in the right place, I can shuffle them around, tie them away with a needle if I need to later. Okay, and then the only other thing that might need tidying up is the bottom of the tassels, but these look not too shabby. So for reference, I wrapped the thread around the card 25 times to get these tassels, so 25 times per tassel, and it's used approximately a skein and a half-ish. So yeah, 2 skeins would be definitely enough to make the tassels for these projects. Okay, so I have my loops, I have my tassels. I'm going to pop them to one side. So now we need to attach the backing fabric to the embroidery. So we need a bit of backing fabric a little bit bigger than the embroidery design. So I'm going to cut this backing fabric into sections. There will be a little bit of excess, but that's okay, I can deal with that. So let me just get the fabric cut. I'll come back to you when we're ready to sew. So we have our loop, so we're going to put it into a loop formation. We're going to place it at the top of our ornament. A bit of a gap between the edge of the stitching and where the ties are, making sure that both ends are roughly together. We'll make sure that we're stitching on the cross stitch side of the knot through both ends of the loop. And we're going to place our backing fabric on top. I'm going to pin this together, and then I'm going to leave a gap at the bottom. So I'm going to sew around the exterior, but leaving a space at the bottom. The pattern says to leave a 1 centimetre gap around the edge of the cross stitch, so for a border, so we're going to aim for that. Which means I might need to do some marking up for a stitch line. So I'm going to get all 3 pinned together, then go and do some hand sewing to get them all stitched on. But the kit didn't come with any sewing thread, it just came with embroidery threads. Luckily I have plenty of thread, so I will be doing that. So I'll come back once everything is hand sewn together and we're ready to turn them out and put tassels on and that kind of thing. Okay, so we've stitched all 3 backings to fronts. This one's fine, this one's fine, this one's not great. The backing fabric shifted as I was stitching it, I think, or as I was marking lines or something, and I think this is just going to annoy me a little bit much. So it's this bit here, it's the really bad bit. Then we've got a bobble here. It's not quite the right distance there either, so I think this one is going to need some unpicking and restitching, so I'm just going to stick that one to the side and focus on the other 2 for now. So my next step is to trim the excess fabric back around the outside of the design. The pattern says about 0.5 centimetre seam allowance to be left, so we'll do that and then we can turn them out. Yes, I am going to be having some scrap fabric produced from this, but there are things you can do with scrap Ada. There's not going to be a great deal of the lining scrap, so that's fine. And I suspect I'm going to have some of the wadding left over. I'm not entirely sure why they didn't have you cut the shape and put it in before you sewed it, kind of like a quilt, because it's done. They've given us sheet wadding, but I mean you can rip it up and use it like normal stuffing, so that's fine. Okay, so let's get these trimmed up and turned out. Okay, so I've got 2 of my tassels here. What I'm going to do, because we're going to insert these in here when we stuff the little decorations, so I'm going to tie a knot a little bit above the top of the tassel, and that's then going to be larger than the stitches, and hopefully help secure the tassel in. What is it, Leo? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, all right. He's asking for TREATSs, I think. So I might have to go and do that to keep him quiet. But there's my tassels prepped, and they can still be tidied up once everything's in place. Okay, hopefully that'll keep the cat quiet for a bit longer. Okay, so I'm just going to trim down these threads a bit. I want enough to be able to insert inside the decoration, but not excess. Okay, so let's get one of these stuffed. Don't want to put too big of a piece in there. I also don't want to overstuff. Oh, well, that didn't last long, did it? What's the matter, Leo? Yeah? What's that? Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, I think that's enough stuffing. The cat is obviously nearby. Hopefully you can see it through the tail movements. So yeah, so the next step is to insert the tassel in here and whip stitch over the edge, which I don't think Leo's going to let me do on camera. So I'll get that done and come back to you. Okay, so I have 2 of my decorations finished. They're ready to go and hang up on my little seasonal tree downstairs. I mean, they're not tiny ornaments, but they're quite light. They'll be fine on that tree. I'm okay with how the tassels are looking. Just a little bit of a brush down when we hang them up, and they'll be fine. So yeah, so they're quite sweet. Just got the one that's sitting to one side, thinking about what it's done until I'm ready to unpick it and re-pit the backing to the cross stitch. But that's fine. That'll get done probably over the weekend, so it'll be another March finish. So that's good. So yeah, quite a sweet little project. The kits come in 2 colourways as far as I'm aware, so it's like a lilac-y one as well. They are very sweet. They do make nice little decorations. I think if you did them with some lavender inside, you use them as lavender sachets, with or without the loop and the tassels. You could also do them without the loop and the tassels and use them as pin cushions if you've probably stuff them a bit firmer. I was a little bit stingy with the stuffing because obviously there's only so much in the kit. Not that I don't have more polyfiller that I could use if I needed to, but they don't need to be massively stuffed to be hanging ornaments. But yeah, if I was using them as a pin cushion, I would probably stuff them a little bit more firmly. So you could hang them on the wall, hang them off a bookcase, hang off a door handle. They're going on my little white tree that gets its seasonal decorations on it instead. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. In the meantime, there is this one here that may be of interest to you, and I will see you soon. But until then, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.